Shri Suresh Prabhuji, Shri Shobhit Mathurji, Shri Ajay Gupta ji, and in front of me, Shri Rakesh Agarwal ji, Shri Sahil Agarwal ji, Shri Soumi Agarwal, Shri L.K. Jain ji, founders, trustees, deans of the 5 schools, vice chancellors and registrars of universities, parents, distinguished faculty members, other relatives of students, and last but not the least, my dear students. It is not only an honor, but also a responsibility to be able to share my thoughts with you today. And it is indeed a tough act to follow after Shri Suresh Prabhuji has very succinctly captured the essence of what it means to be a student of this distinguished university with, as he correctly put it in the end, with values, which values and does not necessarily value valuations, as he put it. I'll share some thoughts with you today. In English, they used to say that if you are not a socialist at 20 years of age, you have no heart. And if you are a socialist at 40, you have no head. In other words, that tells you the kind of worldview that you have to have at a young age. Full of zeal, enthusiasm, idealism, and courage and willingness to change the world at 20, and at 40 you become wiser and you realize the limitations. That is the underlying thought process here. But today, as Suresh Prabhuji put it, the world is obviously going through a very difficult phase, but it is partly because over the last several decades, slowly, it has become a me-first world. Competition has been drilled into us from a very young age these days. And especially in our country, the sheer numbers of people vying for anything, whether it is academic institutions admission, hospital admissions, jobs, in the past it used to be about even train tickets. All of them have inherently made us competitive and wanting to be first in the line, because we were insecure or anxious about not getting our due share. So competition has been built into us. And more importantly, unfortunately, Suresh Prabhuji mentioned Facebook. Social media has made most, if not all, of today's youngsters somewhat narcissist and performance anxious. This is the global and social context in which you have come into this university, the incoming batch. But the fact that you have chosen this university tells me that you can and you are thinking differently. You may not therefore fit into the picture that I painted above, and that's a good thing. If so, that is indeed very welcome, and that is very heartening. And that gives me hope, not only for you, but also for the country, the fact that you chose to come to Rishihood University. It is about making impact. But the important question is, can we change the world? Or should we even try to change the world? When we want to change something, obviously we want to disrupt the status quo. Do today's youngsters know what they want to change and what they want to replace it with? That is what this university will help you discover and figure out. It is okay to try and change, but it's also equally important, if not more, to know what you want to change it with. For example, take climate change. There is a global conference of parties that is going on today, and Suresh Prabhuji referred to it. Some of the youngsters in some country destroyed a Van Gogh painting in order to make their point about climate change. But does destroying a Van Gogh painting make the world less warmer? Do we need to have an alternative vision? And that is where, as the Vice Chancellor spoke about at the very beginning, you need to be first an individual in your own right. You need to engage in honest inquiry, and then you must arrange a system of thoughts that emerge in the individual from your inquiry. But youngsters might say, that is a bit unfair. You might say that's a bit unfair. We are just starting out. We cannot have a vision at the moment. We do not have the experience. We are here to ask questions about the status quo. The elders like you have to provide the answers. That's a fair statement or counter argument to pose. In fact, I must confess, I am part of the generation that has compressed everything in the world today into much shorter time frames. Whatever took the world centuries or even half millenniums to achieve, we have condensed them into decades. For example, the global economic output in the first decade of this millennium exceeded the cumulative output of the first 19 centuries. Yes, 10 years, 2000 to 2010, the combined global economic output exceeded the cumulative output of the first 19 centuries. Reflect on this. You can imagine the amount of resources it would have taken to compress 1900 years of economic growth and output into a 10-year window. Is it therefore any surprise that we are straining on the leash at the moment in many things? Everything is stretched to its limits. Whether it is the environment, whether it is water availability, whether it is air quality, or whether it is our personal finances. We have stretched everything. Our parents and previous generations used to save, retire, and then buy a house or other consumer amenities. Now, most of us wish to have a home, car, consumer durables, foreign travel, and in some cases, maybe not you, foreign education. All of it we want to experience even before we are 30 years old. The British Broadcasting Corporation produced a documentary some time ago calling the 20th century the century of the self. It is a 4-hour-long documentary. I have only watched the first 2 hours, but the title tells you something, isn't it? Consumerism, instant gratification, and century of the self. Borrowing from the future to consume today, but then nothing is left of the future if we keep borrowing from it for today's consumption. Therefore, given this context, what can you do? How are you going to change the world? As the Honorable Chancellor put it, you start by changing yourself. All change begins within. All change starts at home before it becomes broader. Then only it is durable, then only it is credible. So what kind of a change you need to be? You need to undergo. I'll raise eyebrows by saying you need to be a liberal thinker. Wait, that word has been overused, abused, and misused, isn't it? Therefore, what I have in mind is not what passes for liberalism or liberal thinking today, but what the ideal liberal thinker will be. In my mind, a genuinely liberal thinker is someone who's open to new ideas and persuasion, but also has a few core principles and values that are immutable, non-negotiable. She considers facts and assessments, and her assessment is fair, consistent, and symmetric, unbiased by situations and personalities. She is grounded, yet capable of reflection and contemplation of the particular and the general, the abstract and the concrete. She understands that prescriptions for a stable and well-functioning society and economy are a function of the context than they are of theories. She serves humanity with humility and with a tranquil mind. She has convictions, but is also aware of the imperfections of her knowledge and the limitations imposed by ignorance. She avoids hubris. In terms of the functioning of society and economy, I mentioned from an economist's perspective, I said that it is a function of the context. No theory that you will learn will be universally applicable across all countries and over time. You have to be very aware, especially those of you who will be taking economics and finance, that ultimately you learn theories in economics not because the theories explain the world, but to understand why the reality deviates from those theories. Economic theories are nothing but simple points of departure in your journey, in your intellectual inquiry. They are not the final point. Economics is not divorced from politics. Economics is not divorced from society. Economics is not divorced from the cultural and historical and civilizational roots. They, in fact, have enabled countries to flourish, prosper, or flounder. So it is important to understand that the roots of economics lie outside of that. That said, I will borrow some words from one of the economists who used to run the American Federal Reserve, Professor Ben Bernanke. He gave a speech in 2013 to the graduating class in Princeton in 2013. As I said, there is no shame in borrowing the best ideas from others. He told the graduating class, quote, "Take a few minutes, the first chance you get, and talk to an alumni participating in his or her 25th, 30th or 40th reunion." Of course, in Rishihood University, it is still quite young. That opportunity will arise much later. But in general, talk to somebody who has graduated long time ago from university. Somebody who was near the front of the parade. Ask them, when they were graduating 25, 30, 40 years ago, where they expected to be today. If you can get them to open up, you have your parents, friends and relatives, if you can get them to open up, they will tell you that today they are happy and satisfied in various measures, or not, of course, and their personal stories will be filled with highs and lows and in-betweens. But, Mr. Bernanke added, I am willing to bet those life stories will, in almost all cases, be very different in large and small ways from what they expected when they started out. Therefore, it is a good thing, not a bad thing. Who wants to know the end of the story that's only in its early chapters in your lives? Therefore, don't be afraid to let the drama play out. There is one more intellectual, learned gentleman. Unfortunately, a health crisis took away his life much earlier than he and others would have liked it to. His name was Randy Pausch. Some of you might have heard of him. Some of you might have even listened to or read his last lecture. I would like to share some of the key takeaways which are very much in alignment with the university's values here. Get your fundamentals fixed. Otherwise, the fancy stuff is not going to last long. Is it when you see yourself doing something badly and nobody is bothering to tell you anymore that it is a bad place to be? It is important to remember, actually, your critics are the ones who love you and who care for you. As Dale Carnegie once wrote, nobody ever kicks a dead dog. Never give in easily, as experience is what you get when you do not get what you want. For example, remember that learning is not just about coming to the classroom and listening to the lectures. The learning that you get being part of a university is about learning teamwork, negotiation, sportsmanship, cultural sensitivity, and understanding another person, and more importantly, listening. When you are upset with somebody and you are angry at them, it simply means you have not given them enough time. Just give them a little more time and they will eventually or more likely impress you. Start thinking about what you say to people around you. In fact, this is a message for the teachers here. The best gift an educator can give is to get the students to become self-reflective. And dear students, do not lose your childlike wonder. It's important. And do not be afraid or do not be ashamed to apologize when you screw up. When people give you feedback, cherish and use it. Show gratitude. Be good at few things that makes you valuable. Find the best in everybody. Finally, it is not about how you achieve your dreams, but it is about how you lead your life. If you lead your life the right way, karma will take care of itself. The dreams will come to you. My advice to you, and I think when people get called for giving convocation or inauguration addresses, it tells you that you are getting old and the only thing you are becoming good at is giving advice. Therefore, I should not disappoint the organizers and the Vice Chancellor for calling me. Therefore, I will conclude with some advice, although whatever I have been telling you so far also fall in that category. Keep an open mind, an open heart, and a large heart. Many things we deem important today will appear somewhat trivial even a few days later. Learn gratefulness. Count your blessings. Most things do not matter eventually. The more we let go of many things, because they are indeed inconsequential, the lighter we will be, the freer we will be. Then, the lighter we become, there is enough space and room in our minds and hearts to absorb new influences and new experiences. As the Upanishad says, let go and rejoice. Letting go of the baggages we carry will make the journey lighter. Remain a seeker throughout your life. Be the person who knows just about enough to be able to ask the important questions. Lastly, have a sense of humor. Be willing to engage in self-deprecation. Develop the ability to laugh at yourself and be aware of the insignificance of each one of us in the context of the history of evolution and the universe itself. And more importantly, do not take yourself too seriously beyond a point. Finally, as the Rishihood University prepares you, if and when you become big, powerful, and influential, remember to surround yourself with critics who will keep your feet to the ground. As the Vice Chancellor correctly put it, India is not an elective but the core. Your thoughts, your values, your character and ideas will strengthen the core. We are counting on you. I wish you good times, intellectual stimulation, good health, and good relationships on and off campus. May Devi Saraswati be with you. Thank you very much.